Yeah, hi everyone. Good afternoon or good evening, good morning, wherever you might be joining us in the world. We will just give it a few more minutes. We're expecting a few more people and then we can get started. So let's give it up to maybe 2-5. So. All right, I think we can get started now. Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to have you join us for the second edition of the MEST X Deloitte webinar series. Our experts from Deloitte are going to take us through what I believe is one of the key areas of success for any growth stage business. And so today we're looking to answer two main questions. How do you lead an insight-driven organization with data analytics? And what storytelling techniques can you adopt as a business professional? So before we get into the session, I want us to do a bit of housekeeping. So the Deloitte team will take questions at the very end of the session, right? If you, however, have any questions as the session is going on, feel free to drop it in the chat and I will be sure to read it at the end of the session. If we're all on the same page, I think we can get into the meat of the matter. And I'd like to hand over to our friends from Deloitte to take it away. Thank you, guys. I'm Stephen, and I work with the MEST team.
Thank you very much, Stephen. So, as you rightly mentioned, this webinar is basically going to help participants understand what is required to have to be an insight-driven organization, how you're going to achieve this with data analytics and storytelling techniques as well. So just to do a quick introduction, I am William. I am a manager with the Risk Advisory Department at Deloitte. And we also have Nanekia. She's a senior consultant with the Risk Advisory Department, and Richard Quinn, who is also a consultant with the Risk Advisory Department. They will be taking us through majority of the requirements in terms of the techniques that you need to try and adopt to be able to have or be a leading insight-driven organization. So just to start off, I just want to quickly run us through the objectives and the outcome of this webinar. There are 4 key objectives. The first one is the insight-driven organization. What do we mean by an insight-driven organization? How important it is to have data analytics and storytelling techniques to drive your decision-making if you're an insight-driven organization. The second one will be about data analytics. We will take you through what data analytics is and also the role of data analytics in decision making if you want to be an insight-driven organization, and the basic data analytics concepts and terminologies, just so when you come across these things, you have an idea of what to do or what to expect. The third one will be on storytelling techniques and tools. So we'll give you an insight of what storytelling is and why it's important to have storytelling techniques in your approach to be able to help you visualize your data and make your decision making well informed, just so you can add value to your business. And the last bit is on the with regards to the techniques in storytelling. We will talk about how you can use Excel and Power BI to drive your insights. So it will be an overview of Power BI and Excel and the basic features and functions for you to use in analyzing your data. So at this juncture, I would hand over to Nanekia to take you through the insight-driven organization and what to expect.
Okay, thank you, William. And once again, welcome everyone to this webinar. As William rightly said, we'll go through what an insight-driven organization is, not to waste too much of our time. I'll just go right into it. Okay, so basically when we talk about what an insight-driven organization is, we're talking about an organization that is driven by intelligence, that is driven by insight, information, and has the goal to be innovative on a very industrial or commercial scale. And for the purposes of this webinar, we'll refer to an insight-driven organization simply as an IDO. And when we look at intelligence for any organization, we are looking at how an organization is able to leverage on automation, cognitive analytics, and AI to supplement and augment human decisions or make decision making. AI, we'll get into what AI means, that is artificial intelligence. We also have insight. For any insight-driven organization, as the name suggests, then you need to be able to make some strong analytical insights or get some strong analytical insights from the data that you have. So it behoves on this organization to have strong analytical capabilities, which leverages on all types of analytics, which include descriptive, predictive, and prescriptive analytics. Examples that we have already on the market are the Google AI platform prediction and Google Cloud. There's also information, which is very important for any insight-driven organization. You have to be sure that your information is robust, your information is secure, and your information is reliable. Otherwise, whatever insights you're driving or you're getting from the data that you have will not be accurate for the decisions that you would want to make. And obviously, you have to be industrious as an organization. So you're looking at how, on an enterprise-wide level, how your systems are collaborated into core architectures, or how your architecture is collaborated and integrated so that your processes and your behaviors will also be robust. And then it comes to innovation. And this is really important for any organization. You have to be innovative because the market is fast-paced. And without innovation, you'll not be able to catch up as an organization in your market. So we'll move on to looking at the maturity of any IDO. In terms of maturity, we are looking at a scale of 4, which is aware, experimenting, transforming, and leading. And all these are subject to the 5 I's that I initially talked about, which is intelligence, insight, information, industrialization, and innovation. And for any insight-driven organization, once that is the vision, then you should be aiming at being a leading insight-driven organization. Hence, you'd have to be sure that you are good in all the 5 areas. So move on to what an insight-driven organization has to be doing. If you want to be an insight-driven organization, you have to be asking the right questions, you have to be doing the right analysis, and you have to be taking the right action. So it's not just to have insights, but it's very necessary that you ask the right questions to be able to drive you towards your vision and towards the kind of value you want to generate for your stakeholders, as well as the right questions that will lead you to having a successful organization, because nobody sets up an organization and wants to fail. The agenda for any organization is to be able to be successful. So the questions that you're asking should drive you towards success. And in doing the right analysis, it means that you'd have to have purple futures. And by purple futures, I mean an ecosystem of talent or an ecosystem of human resources that have the right balance of technical and business skills. So you don't want to just have technical people in your organization. There should be people who know how to go into the market to be able to sell what you have or the products you have and the services that you have. So that then you're looking at a balanced organization. There should also be trusted insight process and ethical design. And this has to do with the data that you have. So the data that you have as an organization should be trusted in the sense that it should be accurate. You should be able to scale your data. You should be able to rely on your data. Because if you don't have accurate data, then the analysis that you'll be doing will be flawed and you'll not be able to take the right action, which is the next step in what you should be doing as an IDO. So as an IDO, you have to change your mindset because it has to do with being innovative. I talked about that earlier. You have to know how and when to redesign your business to be able to meet the demands of your stakeholders. That's also being user-centric delivery, because you're not just looking at what your vision. You're looking at your vision, but you also want to be sure that it is relevant to your stakeholders. Hence, you have to manage your stakeholders accurately. So we'll go into the building blocks of what an IDO is. We have strategy, we have people, there's process, there's logic, there's data, and there's technology. When we talk about strategy, for every organization, there's a vision. Okay? So if your organization doesn't have a vision, then what exactly are you working towards? So the vision will drive what your strategy, how your strategy should be. It will look at the kind of value you want to deliver deliver to your clients. We'll look at the kind of clients that you have and how you can manage them. And you want to also look at your operating model, whether you want to centralize your organization or you want to decentralize it, whatever works for your organization. And that will be determined by the kind of insights that you're able to drive or get from your data. Also, you want to be innovative. I think I mentioned this earlier, because the market is fast-paced. If you're not innovative, everybody's going to leave you behind as an organization. So you want to be innovative so that you can drive value for your organization. When it comes to people, first off, you're looking at leadership. Your leadership should buy into the vision that you have, and they should be ready to take the necessary steps to be able to achieve that vision that you have. The organizational design is also very important when it comes to people. You don't want to, like I mentioned earlier, you need purple futures. You don't want to just have some people that are technical or just business people. Otherwise, you'll not be able to achieve the strategy that you have set for yourself as an organization. Your talent, very important, because they are the people that make the organization. You may have all the systems and all the computers and all the AI and the machine learning and everything, but once you don't have people, then you're not even able to make those decisions, because the computers and then the AI, machine learning and all of that won't be able to make decisions for you. We'll come to processes, okay? So we're looking at how you want to prioritize your demands. Because again, you have a strategy and you have a vision. So you just don't take on anything because your stakeholders are asked. But if you know what your company or your organization stands for, then you have processes that prioritize what you need to do to be able to succeed, because you know what success means to your organization. You have to be agile, you have to be scalable as an organization. There should also be process re-engineering. Maybe at this point, if you're now starting, this may not be too relevant to you, but at some point in your organization, the growth of your organization, you'd have to look at how to re-engineer your processes so that you can be upgraded or you can be updated with the time. Governance is also very necessary for any insight-driven organization, as well as taking into consideration how your benefits can be realized. You're not just putting in capital for pushing in capital sake, but then it should also be beneficial to your organization. When we talk about logic, we're looking at how the organization is able to embed machine learning, artificial intelligence into your organization. We're also looking at your data, a part of it, so that extracting, transforming, and loading data is looking at how you are able, or you have the systems to be able to extract accurate data. Do you have the systems to be able to transform your data so that your data sources are accurate and you can make insightful decisions from them? Robotic process automation looks at how you're able to automate your processes as well, because you don't always want to be repeating the same process over and over again every time from scratch. There should be that system that helps you to automate your processes as an organization. The supervised and predictive learning, or supervised learning and cognitive, that as well may not be too relevant for any startup. However, if you have it, it's a plus, because these will help you to predict certain things. Like you can do some predictive analytics to be able to determine what kind of information or what kind of sales or what kind of products you need to be invested in so that your organization can be successful. And when you talk about cognitive, you're talking about how your systems are able to mimic human cognition so that they can actually help you. You're not just investing in those systems, but they can help you to achieve success as well for your organization. We talked about data. I think data has pretty much run through a bit of everything, but when you're looking at data as well, you want to be sure that your data is informative and then your data sources are accurate. You should be looking at how to make sure your data is there's quality data and you're able to manage your data accurately as well. There's data monetization. Data is very expensive. Okay, so you can actually get some data or some revenue from the kind of data you have. There's ethics and sharing and regulation and compliance in the wake of data privacy issues and all of that. You don't want to be found culpable to those regulations. So you want to be sure that your data is not breaching any regulatory rules in country and around the world as well. And when we come to technology is also very important for any insight-driven organization. You want to look at your solution architecture, how you're able to solve the problems or the business problem that you have identified for which you have started an organization. You also want to be able to manage your vendors accurately. The sandboxing and industrialization, cloud versus on-premise. This is choosing between what kind of technology you want, whether you want them in the cloud or you want to invest in hardware on your premises as an organization. And you have to ensure that your technology is secure, is reliable, and there's continuity so that you don't always have to be changing the kind of technology you have unless where it is necessary. So as an IDO, you also want to look at what your vision is and how AI and analytics can help you achieve your vision. And for any organization, largely, every organization wants to generate revenue as well as optimize cost. So what AI and analytics can do for you in terms of that is give you insights that will help you to improve upon your customer experience, give you insights to help you innovate your products and personalize them to your stakeholders, build capability because you're looking at talent as well. And we look at risk understanding, pricing optimization, because you're getting insights from across your organization and across your market. So this will help you in turn enhance your performance so that you can get the revenue that you want to get. But when it comes to cost optimization, like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to invest in systems that won't help you to automate your processes. So you'd have to be looking at systems that can help you automate processes, systems that will serve you but won't be too costly, the ones that will help you to prioritize your efforts. Okay. You also want to invest in some form of fraud investigation and fraud analytics, which is very necessary because otherwise then you're working for nothing. Like I mentioned earlier, regulatory compliance, because paying of fines and stuff like that will definitely reduce what is coming to you as an organization. And then streamlining your resources and systems to be able to achieve the vision that you have set for your organization. So we'll just look at a few examples of what vision and mission statements are for certain organizations when it comes to AI, analytics, and data. Because ideally, every organization, like I mentioned earlier, has a vision. So if you're going to be embedding analytics or AI into your organization, then it should be in line with what your vision for the organization is. So one such example is enable insight-driven decision-making to drive value and competitive advantage, ultimately achieving greater shareholder value. So this is what will drive you as an organization and the talents that you have, and what kind of systems that you want to be investing in to be able to achieve the vision that you have for your organization. Okay, so we'll go into what data analytics is. Very broadly, data analytics is a process which involves inspecting, cleaning, transforming, modeling data to uncover useful information, to make informed conclusions and support decision-making. So basically, that is what the goal of data analytics is. So just uncover useful information and make conclusions that will help your business to be profitable. So it's not enough to just analyze data, but it is what you use the data for afterwards that is important when it comes to data analytics. So like I mentioned, what analytics will help you to do as an organization is to identify, predict, detect, anticipate, and tap into. So when we talk about identify, you want to be able to know who your top customers are or who your top consumers are so that you know how exactly to treat them, because we talked about vendor management as well. When it comes to predicting, you want to determine what kind of products that would move maybe in the next week or in the next 2 weeks, so that you know where exactly to push resources or streamline your resources. You want to be able to detect if there's any fraudulent activity going on, and data analytics will help you to do that. You You want to be able to anticipate your sales. Once you're doing a good level of analytics, you'll be able to predict or anticipate what your next month's sales will be. And that will help you to adjust your production target. And tapping into is just data analytics helps you to tap into everything else so that you can make faster and more informed decisions for your business or for your organization. And there's a quote that says, today's great competitors are those that are able to seize the advantage of insight. So once you have your data, you should be able to get insights from that. And you should be able to make decisions or informed decisions from all of that. So when we talk about data analytics, again, there's a wide spectrum of analytics. We can talk about big data, we can talk about traditional data and dark data. As the visual suggests, dark data is what you don't see. So it's all the back end things that are happening. So if you have a social media account, for example, your dark data will be probably how many times, well, Instagram now has some third-party applications that will help you to know how many times someone visited your profile and then someone shared. But there's some information, maybe how the person feels about your product. You'll not be able to tell if the person hasn't left a comment or a like or a review note or something. So dark data is basically the data we do not see. There's traditional data, which is widely available to everybody, that you can easily use, you can easily analyze. And then the big data that you may need some specific tools or some more upgraded tools to be able to analyze. And the whole spectrum of analytics looks at descriptive analytics, that is looking at what happened, diagnostic, why did it happen? So going into the reason why something happened. Predictive is looking at what will happen. So you're able to predict, you're able to plan, you're able to stress test your organization to know what exactly to do, and even your customer behavior. Prescriptive basically is looking at how you can make it happen. So now you're looking at, if you know that you're going to have some a huge amount of demand, or you're going to have a huge demand the next year, then how are you going to be able to meet those demands? So it's looking at your sales and marketing strategies. You want to look at your operation strategy, and then your risk and compliance strategies as well. And cognitive being how to optimize machine learning and artificial intelligence. And like I said, this is mimicking a human mind to be able to solve your problems. So what I think I've mentioned a number of buzzwords. So we'll just go into what the definitions for a few of them are. So we have big data, like I mentioned, which is a collection of large and complex data sets. And this can be a bit difficult to analyze if you don't have some advanced tools. Okay, so big data can consist of structured and unstructured data. And structured data is basically the data that we see, maybe you would see on a spreadsheet easily, and you can just analyze from there. Unstructured data, you can have like text, memos, and stuff like that. Those are unstructured. So if you want to be able to do any analysis on it, you have to do some thorough cleaning and structuring to be able, or transformation to be able to analyze such data. When we talk about what a data warehouse is a system that helps you to report and analyze your data for easy decision making. Talk about data mining, which is basically applying statistical techniques on large amounts of data that becomes useful information for relational databases. We have data science. I see that a lot of people are getting into data science now. It's a field that uses scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems, basically to extract knowledge and to draw insights from data in various forms. We have artificial intelligence, which I've mentioned already, but it's a field that allows machines to be able to mimic human functions like learning and solving problems. And machine learning, which is a branch of artificial intelligence gives machines the ability to learn with data. So this machine has already been programmed, but because of its learning ability, then it doesn't always have to be programmed because it's learned over time. So when we're going to look at data analytics framework, and this is basically the framework that helps for structure and that helps you to analyze your data to be able to make insights for business outcomes. So the first step for employing data analytics in anything is to identify a business problem. I believe that for every organization, it's set up because there's a problem that has been identified, and then you want to solve that problem. So the first step is to identify a business problem. And then the second step is for you to identify the sources or your data sources. Okay, so it's not just you've identified a problem, all right, but you need the right data to be able to make those informed decisions, to be able to set up your organization or use analytics. Okay, so identify data sources. You may have a wide array of sources, so you select the data that's specific to the problem you have identified. And you also want to clean the data up and then transform your data. The transformation bit of data modeling is very important because that is what helps you to make informed decisions. The tools, or that's what helps you to get accurate insights, because the tools that we have available to us have been modeled or created in a way so that if your data is not transformed accurately, then you're not going to get the insights that you require from the data. Step 6 is to analyze your data, and step 7 is to interpret, evaluate, and then make the decisions that will help your organization. So I mentioned that we had some tools that will allow for data analytics. So these are examples of some of these tools. So we have Power BI, which we'll talk about later today. We have Tableau, there's ClickSense, there's Excel, Informatica, SAS, SQL Server, SSAS. I mean, there are a wide array of them. There's C#, Python, R, ACL. The important thing is for you to be able to be well-versed in one or two of them, because for most of them, they are able to do the same thing. So if you are into big data, then you probably want to be going into R, Python, ACL, and C#. Power BI can also take some amount of data, yes, but not as much as, there are constraints depending also on the type that you subscribe to. But most of the free ones, Power BI is free once you have Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft Office. Excel is also free once you have that. So these are some of the tools that we can leverage on for our analytics. Then we want to go into what storytelling is and some of the techniques that we can use to be able to tell compelling stories for decision making. Basically, when you're telling a story, you want your story to be clear, you want your story to be easy to understand, you want your story to be impactful, and that is basically what the goal of storytelling is, because you're communicating something to someone. So you might have big data, you might have so much information, so many numbers, and management is not ready to see what the figures are. They want to be able to see the impact. They want to be able to see, okay, so where do we go from here? So you presenting like a large or a voluminous spreadsheet to anyone may probably not be the best way to tell a story to anyone. So data visualization and the storytelling techniques helps you to do that, so that you can communicate the data that you have to someone else in a very easy to understand way. So when we look at storytelling techniques for data visualization, you want to be able to choose the right visualization for your data. Okay, so we have two examples here. and both of them actually show very poor visuals. The first one, we have bad scaling, because if you're doing any visualization and we're looking at in percentages, 41% and 49% shouldn't be so far off. If this is how it's looking like, then you're going to imagine if you have 100% and maybe 0 or something way lower than 36% in the same visual, they'll be so far apart. So this is not the right way you want to visualize any information that you have. You have to be sure that your scaling is right. Then the second one is looking at too many clutters. Okay, so we have so much information there. We don't know what to do with it because none of them is saying anything in particular, because it's a tall list and even the colors are duplicated because of how much information we have on there. So you'd also have to identify what is important for you to visualize depending on the kind of visualization you want to use, or the kind of chart you want to use. So the basic charts that we have help us to do some comparison, time series, that is looking at how something has happened over time. You want to look at ranking, you want to look at correlation. There's charts that helps you to do some geographical analytics or geographical analysis, sorry. And comparison, basically comparing between two values or comparing a subset to the whole. So that's what we mean by using comparison. And these are some of the graphs or charts that we can use for comparison. And just so you know, these are available in both Power BI and Excel. So we have the column, we have the bar, we have the group column, and we have the grouped bars as well. Then there's the stacked column, tree map column, the pie or donut chart, which looks at when you're comparing to a whole. Okay. Then we have the area chart, we have the line chart, which is just about the same as the area chart. Just so you see that one of them is shaded, the other one is just the lines. And then we have the column chart, which is a combination of the column and the line chart. Then we have correlation. So what we can use for correlation between variables is the scatter plot, which is being shown on your screens right now. And this is looking at the correlation between two or more variables. So that is how you are able to present a correlation if that's the kind of story you want to tell. There are other graphs. What we have here, we have the gauge chart. We have the funnel, which helps to visualize a process that has stages. So if you want to see how your the kind of product you put on the market and how they fared over time, then or how they fare amongst each other, then you can have the funnel chart to do that. Then there's the KPIs, which is measuring your performance against a measured goal. There's the matrix, you have the card and the multi-row card, presenting very useful information, but in a very clear way so that it's easy to read. So at this point, I will stop here and hand over to Richard to take us through how to use Excel and Power BI for data analytics and storytelling.
Okay, thank you, Nanikia, for that introduction and giving us a lot of insight into data analytics. From this point, I would also be taking us through the main tools used for data analytics, specifically Microsoft Excel and Power BI. However, you've already mentioned earlier on that there are several different tools that can be used for analytics purposes, but for this webinar, I'll be focusing more on Microsoft Excel and Power BI. Before that, I'd like to take us through certain definitions and terms that we need to know. I'll share my screen now. Okay, I'd also like to start by saying that in order for any organization to be insight-driven, there are certain steps that organizations need to take, one of which is to prioritize data analytics as a main business function and invest into the necessary resources such as skills and tools in order to generate actionable insights. It's also important for the organization to be able to communicate these insights to the right people so that you can achieve your business objective. It's also very important to identify the business objectives that can be achieved with the use of data analytics. Now I'll go on to the definition of Microsoft's Excel. Now, Excel is a software or a tool that has been created by Microsoft for the manipulation and creation of spreadsheets. Excel has a lot of functions and a lot of uses. We will go into some of them, starting with the characteristics of Excel. So Excel is a tool that is easy to use. You can use for simple analytical purposes, data entries. You can also use it for basic, simple calculations. It is very versatile and diverse, so it can be used for several different purposes. Some of the things Excel can be used for is data entry, data cleaning, data visualization, data mapping.
I think we just lost Richard, but he will join us shortly.
Hello, am I visible and audible as well?
Yes. Go ahead.
I'd appreciate some feedback so I know I can go ahead and continue.
Yes, Richard, you are audible and visible.
Okay, sorry about that. I think it's a technical issue, so I'll be taking that again. So I was talking about Microsoft Excel. I mentioned that Microsoft Excel is a tool, a software program that has been developed mainly for the creation and manipulation of spreadsheets, and it has several different uses. I think I went further into the characteristics of Microsoft Excel, such as it's easy to use and can be used for several different purposes. It is very versatile and can be used for several different things, such as data cleaning, data visualization, simple calculation, even mapping of data, summarizing data, and so on and so forth. Microsoft Excel also allows for collaboration, which is two or more users can make use of a single spreadsheet, especially with the ability of Microsoft Excel to be integrated with other Microsoft tools. Microsoft also has a customization feature, which allows people to customize the tables and reports that they intend to create with the look and feel to meet the look and feel that they want with regards to their fonts, colors, and so on and so forth. It's easily accessible to all. Microsoft Excel is a free tool which we can download from the internet. Once you have access to Microsoft Office, you should be fine. You should be able to download Microsoft Excel and use it with the desktop computer that you have or laptop. Now, within Microsoft Excel, I'll mainly be focusing on two main things: data visualization and data summary. Under data visualization, I'd like to talk about some of the types of charts that exist within Microsoft Excel. My colleague Nanike had already spoken and given us an overview of the charts, but there are some general principles that govern the use of charts, which I'd like to go into. Now, we have some certain basic charts, such as the column charts, the line charts, area chart, bar charts, pie charts, and surface charts. Now, the column chart is a visual that is mainly used for the comparison of categorical data, whereas the line chart is a visual that is mainly used for comparison of data over a period of time, such as sales for a year or 2 years and more. The area chart and the line charts serve the same purpose and can be used for the same form of analytics. Whereas the bar charts and the column charts are all used for categorical comparisons. The pie chart can also be used for categorical comparison. However, it looks at composition to a whole. So most times you are looking at visualizing data with regards to percentages when it comes to the pie chart. But then again, I'd like to add that these principles are not cast in stone, and you also have to look at which visual suits the story you'd like to tell with it. Now, within Microsoft Excel, under the Insert tab, there is a chart option that gives you access to all the basic charts that we have mentioned and more. There's also the recommended chart option for those that may not know what charts to actually choose for their visualization. Microsoft Excel will provide a chart for you, and then you would have to now decide whether that's the best chart for you or choose from the other options that is presented. Now, pivot tables. Pivot table is another tool in Microsoft Excel that I'd like to go into. Pivot table is a summary tool, and it's mainly used for summarizing transactional data. Now, in the next slide, I've given a sample of transactional data, which is data I'd like to walk us through. But at a glance, I'd like to briefly describe the data. This is a dummy data set from an online shop in Ghana. The first column shows us invoices from items that have been bought. The stock code is a unique number to each product. The description shows the product that has been purchased. We have the quantity column, we have the invoice dates, we have the price, the customer ID, and then the locations of the customers. I also like to add that the customer ID are representing the customers that are making purchases of the products. Now, with this data, from the last two columns, you can tell that the information is repeated. And so it makes it difficult to analyze and understand at a glance. This is where it becomes necessary for us to make use of pivot tables to summarize the data into an easily understood format. Now, in the next slide, I have summarized the pivot table based on location in order such that the company or dummy organization can at a glance tell which location is purchasing the most in terms of quantity bought. So from the top of the screen, you see that Kanishi is leading, whereas at the bottom, Spintex is the last, or Spintex buys the least. I would like to walk us through this information in Microsoft Excel, and then we move on to Microsoft Power BI. I'm having some technical issues with my laptop, but then I'll resolve it briefly and we'll get into that. A minute, please. Thank you.
So at this point, whilst we wait for Richard to get back online with us to demonstrate how to go about the usage of Excel and Power BI.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm back.
Okay.
I think whilst we're still trying to resolve the technical issue I'm having with my laptop, I will move on to speak to Power BI before we get into the walkthrough of both of them. So I'm sharing my screen now on Power BI, and I'll speak to it. So Power BI is also a Microsoft tool meant mainly for data visualization. However, it also has an analytics aspect to it as well. Power BI data visualization is the graphical representation of data in a visually appealing way, which summarizes the data such that analysis can be done. Power BI has several benefits such that you can update visuals that have been created or dashboards or reports which have been created in real time. In real time, meaning that if you have an organization that has an app that is keeping track of the sales that is being recorded on a daily and hourly basis, that information can be synced to Power BI such that you can update the reports on an hourly basis or for whichever time period that you set within Power BI. Power BI is also available on all devices, and it is very, very easy to use, just like Microsoft Excel. Power BI consists of several components. We have the Microsoft Power BI desktop, we have the Power BI service, the web service, the Power BI mobile app, the Power BI gateway, the Power BI embedded service, the server, and then the visual marketplace, all of which I'll be taking us through in bits. However, I'd like to start by talking about the first three main platforms. Now, Microsoft Power BI Desktop is the desktop app which can easily be downloaded online, just like Microsoft Excel. It allows you to create reports within it and then upload to the web service. The web service in this case is Microsoft Power BI service. The service is a workspace online that allows you to create reports and upload reports from Power BI Desktop, as well as share with your peers that are also on Power BI. We also have the Power BI mobile app, which is an app that allows you to create visuals from your phone, as well as have access to visuals that have been shared through your desktop and through the service as well. In the previous slide, the Power BI embedded was mentioned. I'd like to speak to that as well. So Power BI embedded is the ability for you to be able to upload dashboards and visuals you have created from your web service to a website or to the internet directly. Once you do that, you can have a feel of your dashboard, and Power BI is also very interactive, such that with the click of each visual, you can filter out the entire dashboard to suit what you seek to investigate in. Now, the three main versions of the three main types of Power BI we have, or versions we have, are the free version, the pro version, and the premium version. The free version is the Power BI desktop, which you can download online. And with that, you can start to create your reports. You have access to publish your reports to the web. However, you cannot share with your peers. You cannot share with peers that are not that do not have access to Power BI. They will need to download the app. The Power BI Pro version is a paid version, which is $9.99 per month, and allows for peer-to-peer sharing. However, the web service online has a space of 1 gigabyte. For bigger storage, you'd have to go for the premium version, which is 100 terabytes of storage. However, that is for larger organizations that make use of very large data sets. Now, these are the three main types of Power BI. Now, Power BI has some pros and cons. The pros being that you can import data into Power BI from over 70 different data sources, right? Excel allows you to import data into it, yes, but Power BI allows you to import a lot more from several different sources, including the web. You can download information from a website directly into Power BI, and with the right skill set, be able to transform your data into the necessary formats for the reports that you seek to create. You can import data from Excel as well, SQL databases, the internet, and more. It also allows you to sync with programming languages such as Python and R, such that if you decide, now Python and R was mentioned earlier by my colleague as programming languages that also serve as data analytics tools. So if your organization is at that level where Python is the main tool for analytics, or R, Power BI can be integrated with Python such that data that has been analyzed and cleaned within these programming languages can easily be imported into Power BI for visualization and analysis. Now, the main cons of Power BI is that Power BI does not allow for sharing with non-Power BI users. And also, it does not allow for email description, mainly for the Power BI desktop version. As we are waiting for our technical issues to be corrected, I still have some screenshots on the look and feel of Power BI. Now, on your screen, you will see the Power Query Editor. Now, just as within Microsoft Excel, before any analytics is performed, it's very important to clean your data. Most of the time, you spend about 70% of your time cleaning data. And just as you can do that in Microsoft Excel, you can also do that in Power BI with the use of the Power Query editor. From your screen, from the screenshot, you can see under each column there's the valid, error, and empty description written there. That gives you information and insight into each column to identify which columns may have some inconsistencies within them and then address them. Within the Power Query editor, you can then look for missing values, look for values that are out of place. You can identify and analyze columns that may have information that may not supposed to be there. Example, with the quantity column that consists mainly of numbers, if during your analysis you identify some letters within that column, the Power Query editor allows you to take that out as well. And now, after you have transformed your data or information in the Power Query editor, depending on the number of tables that you seek to use to create your report, you can then move on to modeling your data. Now, on this next screen, I have a screenshot of data from 3 different sources for a single organization: the transactions, customers, and products, which have been divided into 3 main tables. Now, Power BI has a modeling aspect that allows you to link or create relationships between tables, mainly because you seek to create a report based on information from all 3 tables. This is another advantage of Power BI. Now, the report view is the main canvas on which you do perform visualization and data analytics. On the right-hand side of the screen, you will see the basic charts that are available to you, such as the bar charts, column charts, the funnel charts, the slices. And I would also like to add that Power BI has some AI built into it, such as the smart narrative, paginator reports, and Q&A that allows you, that reads the visuals that you create and then gives you more insight into that visual. It gives some sort of a summary into it. Now, within the Power BI report view is where most of the visualization is done after transforming the data. So I've already spoken to the visualization here. This is just to let us know the number of visuals. I would also like to add that Power BI allows you to access the online marketplace where you can get extra visuals for tailoring your report to suit you. Sometimes you may feel like the basic chart is not what you want for your report. So the online marketplace is a web portal that allows you to get extra visuals and customize them to suit you. Now, I have created a dashboard with Power BI that gives us an overview of the online shop from the data that I initially mentioned in the Microsoft Excel part of this webinar. So this gives us a clear overview of the picture over the period of 7 months or 8 months. So at a glance, you can tell from the sales charts that sales was at its peak in August and was at its lowest in February. And the same for the customer per month chart, which tells us the month with the highest number of customers, and the transactions per month chart, which tells us the month that had the highest number of transactions. Now, Power BI is also interactive, I forgot to add. And it is interactive in the sense that you not only filter by slices, but by clicking on visuals as well. And so with the demonstration, we'll be able to get deeper into that. I'd also like to speak to storytelling. My colleague earlier took us through storytelling, but I'd also like to take us through storytelling from the charts that I have created. So some of the techniques or skills that you have to take in consideration in storytelling is you need to make your story relatable. In as much as you may have to present a report to management and then you give them a chart or a graph. Sometimes management will not like to just go through the chart itself and try to figure out the message you're trying to carry across. So it's very important sometimes to add some summaries to it such that it is easily understandable. And if it is a presentation, you have to look at the tone of language you would use in your presentation to address the audience in front of you. If you are dealing with the non-technical staff, you don't have to use technical jargons. Whereas if you're dealing with a technical staff, you then use the technical jargons. You also have to make sure that your visuals are simple and clear. It's saying that less is more. It's important to make sure that in telling your story, the visuals are as clear as possible, such that the viewer will not have to strain to understand what the message you're trying to carry across. So these are examples of summaries I have done with regards to storytelling on the data that we have done. So with the transactions by month, we'll speak to, I've given a summary on the left which says the month of August had the most transactions of 4,782, surpassing January, which had the fewest transactions of 2,577 by 85.56%. With this information alone, your data is summarized and you're able to carry the message that you need across. I'll also show you a third visual, which compares 2 years. 2 years. Okay. So before we get to the questions, I would take us through the walkthrough in a minute. Let me just set up and then reshare my screen. Thank you.
Okay, so whilst we wait for Richard to set up and walk us through how to go about the Excel bit in terms of, analyzing data to present them in a more suitable visual manner. I don't know, are there any high-level questions at this point from anybody so that we can note them and probably try explaining them before Richard delves into his presentation? Feel free to drop your questions in the chat box.
All right, guys, so we're still waiting for questions, but if we have any comments or if anybody wants to share their experience with using Power BI, you can also go ahead and I'll give you the opportunity
I'll
to
share my screen and taking us through Microsoft Excel in data visualization and pivot tables first, and then we'll go on to Power BI. Okay, so now I'm sharing my screen to show us the sample data I mentioned about the online retail shop in Accra. Now, at a glance, we can tell that the data is sort of disorganized and there are some unnecessary columns that we need to take out. As I mentioned earlier, that before you get deeper into any form of analytics, the first thing you have to do is to clean your data. So I'll be cleaning the data first, and then I'll move on to create a summary of the data using pivot tables. So I hope you can follow me as I get through the data cleaning aspect of this report. So in data cleaning, it's important to sometimes filter the entire work. That allows you to have a clear picture of the entire work. So there are some blank columns and I'd like to take them out. However, if the data was larger than just a few rows, it would be a hassle to click on each single row one by one and keep scrolling to take them out. And so I filtered the entire table, and now I'll just select the blank rows and then delete them. So after filtering out the blank rows, you will notice that from the left-hand side of the screen, there are two rows that are colored blue, row 10 and row 8. Now, these are the blank rows that fall in between the data. Every other row falls after the end of the data. And therefore, I can easily just click on those to select them and then delete them. Now, just on filter, I'll take out the blank column, which is column D. Then I'll go through the other columns. So at a glance, I noticed that the unit price column is mainly supposed to be a numerical column. However, I noticed that there's some text within that column. So I'll then move on to check the entire column by filtering it to identify if there are other numbers or inconsistencies within that column. So I realized that it's just the 2.1b. I filtered that one, and then I'll take out the b. Now, after that, we can tell that the data is a bit cleaner. And so we can move on to summarizing the data. I noticed that the stock code is also not fully aligned to one side. And it may not necessarily affect the analytics, but I can just shift all of it to one side. Okay. So in order to use pivot tables, all you have to do is go to the Insert tab, click on it, and then at the far left corner of the screen, you click on Pivot Tables. It will then, a pop-up box would appear where it would give you options as to where you would like your pivot table to be within the worksheet. Would you like it to be on the same sheet you are working on or a new sheet? And I will go with the new worksheet option. So I would like to summarize the data based on locations and the number of customers in each location. So the pivot table view in the next sheet shows us a pivot table field, which is at the right-hand side of the screen, and then the form at the left-hand side. So in order to create the pivot table, you then have to go through the field list, which is each of the columns in the initial dummy data, and drop them in the spaces below. So I'll drop location and rows, and then I'll drop customer ID in values. So you can see from the screen that the data has been summarized based on the customer ID. The customer ID has been summed up, and pivot table automatically does that for you. In order to make it clearer, we can just filter it a bit, add comments, and then sort it out in descending order. And that alone will give us a lot of insight into which locations have the most number of customers and which locations has the least. I'll refilter the heading, the locations, and customers. And then I'll sort it out in descending order. Okay, now after the sort, okay, so after the sort, at a glance, you can tell that Kanishi has the highest number of customers, whereas Dome does not have any customers at all. I know this may seem basic, but I just want to add one more thing before I move on to Power BI. Dome does not show any customer ID. In order to investigate into this, you can just double click on the gap space and it will give us more information into the reason why Dome is blank. Now, after filtering by just domain, you realize that the customer ID column is blank. However, all other columns have extra information. Now, this is where questions will arise as to what happened to the initial data and what is the reason for the blanks in the customer ID. So with this, you can now ask the right questions to the right people to get the right information that you need. Okay, so now I'll just skip to Power BI and give us a brief overview of how a dashboard would look. So I'll change my screens now. Okay, so I'm sharing my Power BI screen now. This is an interactive dashboard that I created. And this is the dashboard that was put in the PowerPoint. I would like to show you the interactivity of the dashboard before I move on to creating a dashboard. Now, once I click on the customer by month filter, chart, once I click on February, the entire chart would filter to February. If I decide to select 3 or 4 different months, the dashboard would be completely filtered by the periods that I've selected. This is an interactivity that Microsoft Excel does not give you. However, we do have the slices as well at the side of the screen, and you can add to it or remove the slices based on what you see fit or what suits the type of report you seek to create. All right, so with this, I'll start creating a dashboard from scratch, just to give you a clear overview of how it's done. So I'll start with the background. Start with inserting the shape. Resize it to the whole screen, and I'll just change the color a bit to something darker. So I'll go with this color, and I'll change the color of the background of the screen as well to gray. I'll add the title text with the text box. And I'll resize it. Take out the background color. Filter. Take it up there. And I'd like to start creating the KPIs. So I'll start with the sales KPI. So I'm using the card visual for the KPIs.
Hello, Richard. I think I lost you a bit. Can you go back and help me understand how you were able to link up the sales KPIs, etc.? Because I just saw you clicking, and we just went straight to the information. So can you help us understand that?
So one advantage of Power BI is when you're creating a visual, once you've been able to create one chart, you can easily copy and paste that chart and create duplicates of that so that you don't have to recreate those charts from scratch. So that's exactly what I'm doing with the KPIs. And then I'll just change the parameters within the charts to represent the information that I need. So the first will be sales. I'll change the second to customers. And the third to transactions. And the fourth to profit. I'll then move on to creating the charts. I'll start with the sales and profits per month. So I'll add the month visual. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So I'll just change the border of this to and make them more rounded. So whilst I'm creating it, you will notice that everything I need to edit the chart I'm creating is found on the right-hand side of the screen. There's a lot more you can do with Power BI. Starting with creating a dashboard. So I've created 2 line charts that show sales and profit and sales and cost. I'll now create 2 extra charts to show customers and transactions using the bar graphs. Okay, so I'm almost done creating the visual, but with Power BI, you have the option to link each visual to each other such that it becomes more interactive. And so once you click on one chart, it filters the other. And you can do that by clicking on the format pane. I'm going to edit interactions. Once you do that, filter buttons appear on each chart, one gray and one white. So once you click on the white icon, it will filter the other charts. So you have to do that for each chart in order to allow for interactivity between the charts as well. Finally, I'll just add the filters to the visual. And I'd like to filter by year, month, and week. I'd like my filter to be a drop down as well, so it doesn't take too much space. And that should be it. Just change the coloring a bit. White. Now, Power BI also gives you the opportunity to align each chart and visuals with the grids that it provides. There's also an option from the format pane, which allows you to distribute shapes that you select horizontally or vertically. Okay, so this is the chart. This is a brief dashboard that I've created with Power BI. There's more we can do from that. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. Now, I would also like to add that Power BI has an extra feature called DAX, also known as Data Analytics Expressions. Now, Data Analytics Expressions allows you to create measures and calculations based on the type of information you need. I have some DAX already created here, but I can walk you through what the DAX functions do. So we have the customer measure that I created. That is counting the customer ID, just as a pivot table would do in Microsoft Excel. However, you'd have to write a little bit of code with a distinct count in order to give us more information, in order for the measure to take effect. I have another measure for transactions where I'm using the count function within DAX. And then you can do several things with it. You can do the count, you can do a sum, you can do multiplications, you can assign measures to specific variables, and so on and so forth. There's a lot you can do with DAX. And also, I'd like to add the smart narrative feature, which can give you a brief summary of everything. So from the other tabs, I have a summary of the information that I created from the visuals that I initially created. But this information that was given to me was from the smart narrative. It was not written by me, it wasn't hard written by. But I would also like to add that sometimes that does not properly word the summary. So you sometimes have to look at it again and rephrase it. I'll just demonstrate how the smart summary works. So the icon shows under the visualization pane. Once I click on it, it takes into consideration the visuals and gives me a summary of everything I have visualized on the screen. So as you can see in the text bar, it says 1.3 million. August had the highest sales and 255.18% higher than October, which had the lowest sales. And August accounted for 14.11% of sales. And across all 12 months, sales range from 300,000 to 1.3 million. So it's basically giving us a summary of the dashboard and the data that I have fed into the visual. Now, if this is not the actual summary that I need, I can choose to take this off and then rephrase it in a way that makes analysis quicker and faster and presenting it to management quicker and faster. But that's all dependent on if it is what you need. Now, Power BI also has the Q&A feature. The Q&A feature has an icon on the right side of the screen as well. That allows you to ask questions to Power BI based on the information that it has presented. So let's say after clicking on it, it gives you sample questions to choose from, like what is customer by ID? What is the transaction by ID? But sometimes they may not be the actual questions you may seek to ask. So you have the option to key in a specific question, and then Power BI will give you the answer, or it will filter the dashboard to give you more information on what you need. So those are some of the features of Power BI. And I would say for now, this is what we would like to present with regards to some of the tools that we can use for data analytics in Microsoft Excel and Power BI. There are other tools out there. There's Tableau, there's Google Studios, and so on and so forth. However, for the purpose of this webinar, we'd like to focus on these two. Thank you so much for your cooperation and being with me through the entire webinar, including the challenges that I had. I wouldn't like to waste any more of your time, so I'll end it here and hand it over to my colleague, Nanika.
All right. Thank you very much, Richard, and of course, Naneke and William for the session. I believe this brings us to the very end of the session. I particularly enjoyed the part where we talked about spectrum of analytics and traditional data and dark data. I think we can jump into some Q&As right now. I don't see any questions in the Q&A section, so maybe I'll give you guys a minute to drop your questions in there, and we can have, or raise your hand, and we can have the Deloitte team address that. So, yeah. Okay, maybe whilst we wait for questions, Nanekia, William, Richard, I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts, final comments.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. So when it comes to final thoughts, basically the questions would have helped us to gauge the kind of insights that people on the call have received from this training. However, from this webinar, I believe that we have all been able to understand how to lead an insight-driven organization by what we went through, asking the right questions and taking the right actions so that you can have a successful business. And we can also appreciate how to incorporate artificial intelligence and analytics in achieving our vision for the organization. And because of the time factor, then we had to start from somewhere. So the data analytics is very broad. There's a lot more to learn. Once we have enough time, we can go into much more detail. So, and then I hope that we also have been able to take home some techniques to be able to tell compelling stories using very simple tools at our disposal, such as Excel and Power BI. So that would be it from my end. William, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Thank you, Nanika and Richard. Unfortunately, I can tell Richard was having a difficult time with his laptop, so he wasn't able to delve into details what he wanted to. But thank you very much for the presentation. I must say that, I mean, in terms of data and how it can give insights, just to go further or to an advanced level of InsightDriven organizations. For example, the use of ChatGPT, which has actually come to stay. I don't know if most of you have heard of it. It's a very useful tool, although it doesn't give visualizations. To some extent, you can query it to get insights, which would help you, I mean, structure what's the kind of visualizations that you may need to give you more information as to the bare minimum data that you can put together to to develop the visuals that you need to drive the insights that you want, which can subsequently help you make the informed decisions. So I must say this was a fruitful session, regardless of the technical challenge. If there are any questions, feel free to drop them. At this point, I'll hand over to Stephen and Co to take over.
All right, thank you very much, William, and big thanks to the rest of the team. I think it's been a great session, a lot of takeaways, and I hope that the participants can get some value or got some value from the session. So yeah, big thank you to Deloitte for facilitating this, and a big thank you to you guys for being here. I think it's a good time to call it a day. Do enjoy the weekend and the break, and see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.